People of Reddit, what stupid rule at your work/school backfired beautifully? Management decided that lines of code written per week was a good metric for determining software engineer productivity. You want a 3-line function stretched out into 50 lines? I am your captain. A boss was worried we were stealing time by using the bathroom for too long. So being the nut job he is, he locked all the bathrooms in the building, except the ones he could see from his office door, shut off water to them, put out of order signs on them, and he would sit there with a stopwatch timing us between walking into the restroom and walking out. These are all one at a time restrooms, and then would call out the time. This was stupid, over the top, and almost positive is illegal, but he never made a policy officially restricting bathroom time. He just wanted to make everyone feel uncomfortable if they took too long. I discovered that with my height it was really easy to go through the drop ceiling and over the half wall, and I was the only other person using the men's besides my boss, who is short. So I went in, locked it from the inside, and did my business, and climbed out the ceiling, leaving the door locked, so my boss could not get into the bathroom when he needed to go, and was forced to use the ladies. Which led to our female employees complaining that he was taking too long in their bathroom. To this day I don't know if he ever figured out how I was doing that. I was working as a medical assistant at a private practice medical clinic. Our clinic manager would not allow the new receptionist to drive to the bank to deposit cash. Made her walk carrying the money bag so that she could not her drive away with the money. Oh, bizarre. I know. That went on for a few weeks. Then the receptionist was mugged and over $1,000 in cash was stolen. She was allowed to drive after that. My boss started putting a real staff required to start 15 minutes earlier than India Turdo on the roster. I started keeping track of my unpaid overtime and stung her for 3 paid days off. Fatter is not required anymore. I worked on this company that had mandatory 1-hour lunch breaks. Since we ate on the premises, our lunch break was often 15 minutes or so. We tried negotiating having shorter lunch breaks so we could leave earlier and beat traffic. Next day an email was sent from the OWN stating the fixed work and break hours for the whole team, and they were to be followed, no exceptions. Cool. Next week, a big client called about halfway through our lunch, and nobody moved. It rang and rang until said owner took the call, talked to them, and immediately came to scold us. Sorry, boss, as per your rules, we are off until 1 PM, no exceptions. A couple of weeks later, we did some work on site for the same client. They were, to be honest, one of the coolest clients I ever had in my life. They took us out to lunch, and while talking we ended up relaying the owner's rule. They had a big chuckle over it, and while the project lasted, they made a point to always call while we were at lunch break just to annoy owner. Not mine, but an old roommate of mine was a senior developer for a small company. It was an open secret that one of the other senior devs, a guy who had been there since the beginning, would sometimes spend time looking at plastic surgery photos before/after shots, photos of active procedures, etc. He did it enough that people would poke fun at him about it, but he didn't seem embarrassed about it, and it wasn't harming anyone. Well, one day a project manager said something to the CEO about this guy's ongoing plastic surgery obsession, and the CEO flipped. He said that, going forward, no one was allowed to use their work computers to access external websites at all. Anyone who's ever been a developer knows that half the job is googling stuff, so this policy pretty much halted productivity in its tracks. It only lasted a day before the CEO retracted the rule, but let everyone know that their browser history will be monitored going forward. After that, no one really changed their behavior, they just started remotely accessing their home computers to browse instead. Back in the early zeros, my high school implemented a policy that you had to wear your ID tag at all times. If you did not have it on, you were sent home. So many students ORL or stole their ID tag to go grab food or skip a class. We were the only graduating class to wear them all for years. The policy ended soon after. I worked at Starbucks for like 5+ years before and during undergrad, and at one point our district manager thought it was a good idea to implement a just say yes policy where we literally weren't allowed to tell the customer no. Lasted for about 3 months, and in that 3 months our unaccounted product and waste went up over 300% because when the post didn't have a way to punch in a customer request we had to just do it anyways. We also got complaints from stores in surrounding districts because they had angry customers who were requesting things that were against local food service code and told them that we did it for them at our store. I knew exactly how that policy was going to play out, and I just laughed every time management was freaking out about the problems it was causing. My spouse's workplace realized they didn't have a policy about sending sexual images or jokes as part of their ML acceptable use policy, so they added it. Except they made it a firing offense to send *or receive sexual content. I think the intent was to stop people from subscribing to such content. They also said that your access would be immediately revoked until a determination was made. So someone got fired for something else and decided to send their whole management chain a graphically sexual image, then report it using the anonymous tip line. It got the report, concluded they did indeed receive sexual content, and did as who suspended all the involved ML accounts, including the SVPs. The policy has since been reworded. The dealership I was working at decided they wanted to save money by not having the cleaning crew come in after hours. People started leaving the dealership to go home to go to the bathroom because they were disgusting. I lived pretty far away, so I would just go use the GM's private bathroom. The bottom floor of my secondary school was a square that had corridor all the way around. After some incident where a kid got knocked over, they implemented a one-way system. Unfortunately, they were very strict on enforcing it. If you accidentally walked past your class, you couldn't just turn around. They seemed very proud of their new rule. Until everyone started showing up late for class because they had to do extra laps of the bottom floor. Couldn't buy drinks at lunch with cash money, had to buy some voucher. They were just cheaply made laminated pieces of paper. This was 2001. I was 13 and board point scanned the vouchers and printed them out on paper that kinda matched the color of the vouchers. And laminated them myself. They were horrible made and not even the right color on the backside. Also crudely cut out. I made about 100 of them, have passed them out after I tried paying with them for myself and encountered no problems. Made some new friends and upped production. Took them about 3 weeks to find out, but by then the fakes ones had intermingled with the real ones and had already been resold to students via the student office. About half of the vouchers sold were fakes. Drinks were cash only from then on. They had no choice to accept the fakes one for a little while longer though, as they had sold and charged for some of them. A long while back, but my school ******** banned the color pink because a bunch of students were wearing it one October and they thought it was a gang thing. It was for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The rule didn't go well for them. A place I used to work had a rule that executive level staff needed to be contactable when on leave, so they had a section on the leave form for the address of where you'd be staying and a contact number. Some knuckle shuffler in ours decided it applied to all staff and the shenanigans began. People would put down the address and phone number of sex shops, sports grounds, medical clinics. I gave the latitude and longitude of the place I was going camping, and the UHF frequency channel my radio would be tuned to. Not sure if this applies, but I worked at a restaurant that started doing Thursday night trivia in hopes of more traffic. The prize for the winner was their ticket would get comped. One guy asked to have everyone in the restaurant's food put on his ticket, and then won. They stopped doing trivia night. My HS had a smoking in the bathroom problem, and to solve it, rather than having a teacher outside the restrooms during hall time, they locked all the bathrooms except one. This made it so you had to wait in a stupid long line with 1200 other students trying to use 3 stalls for each gender in the 10 minutes between classes. During class time they had the assistant principal sit outside the one open bathroom and they would check your ID and sign you in and out, and only one student in at a time. 1. Major health code violation. 2. Kids would be holding it all day. 3. Girls on their cycle needed the restroom and would often have to get a pass from class to go use the restroom. BC the lines were too long during breaks. 4. Smokers still smoked in the gym locker-rooms during changing time. This rule didn't solve anything but made it very unhygienic and rather annoying to just use the restroom. In chemistry class we had plastic bottles of distilled water which could be squeezed to produce a small jet of water. We used to spray one unauthorized crotches to make it look like you had peed yourself. To counter this, our teacher introduced a punishment to anyone caught spraying or having been sprayed. Hence, if you could spray someone and get away with it, they would have wet trousers and have to write excerpts from a Martin Luther King speech. Needless to say, the punishment for being sprayed was quickly abolished. To make moving between classes more efficient, they had designated up and down stairways. But they didn't take into account that the stairs were located at the ends of the very long corridors, which meant it was impossible to get to your next class on time. Because of this, no one bothered trying to get to class on time and just blamed the stairway rule.